Step right in. Yeah. The vibe is prime. Ooh, yeah. Built to scale, we're on that climb.
We want people to feel really proud. When they open up their garage, they're like, wow, look at this.
We don't want to just rebuild your website to make money. We want to rebuild the website so that we can capture those leads.
It's pretty easy to generate leads, but they're not quality leads. We really want to be perfect, but at the same time, we support ourselves. Right?
Today, we're talking with Jan Vinarskiy, the owner of Floorguard, a Chicago-based home service company redefining what it means to deliver quality, reliability, and care in the concrete coating and home organization space. Under Jan's leadership, Floorguard has grown from a small local operation into a model of efficiency, customer focus, leveraging smart systems and powerful branding, and a do-it-right the first time mentality that embodies the Be Kind Local philosophy. Jan, welcome to the Be Kind Local podcast. Thank you so much for helping us kick this podcast off. I think that you are the perfect first guest because you truly embody everything that Be Kind Local stands for. So thank you.
Thanks, Drew. I'm super excited to be here. I'm excited to be the first guest here, and it'll be a lot of fun.
We are so excited to have you because we've been a part of this voyage with you since, I guess, I can't say from the very beginning, but you guys decided to take an initiative to re-energize your service side of the business. Now, you have multiple hats at Floorguard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about your business and kind of, what Floorguard is and just for the audience that's not familiar with your brand?
Sure. Yeah. So Floorguard, we have two parts of our business. The primary part of our business that most people know us about is our manufacturing business. So we've been manufacturing epoxy, polyaspartic coatings for the last 20 years, and we sell that across the United States. And that's really where a lot of the focus has been in the company. Now, our company actually started as an installation company. We were one of the first people installing concrete coatings 35 years ago. I acquired the company a little over a year ago from the original founders, and they have a great story. They started as carpet cleaners and then decided, hey, I can't really make any money in carpet cleaning. I think I want to try this crazy coatings thing. And they did that way before the trend had started. So it was, people weren't putting it in their garages yet. They didn't really know what epoxy was, but they started doing it. And then at some point, they got tired of what they could buy from other manufacturers and started to formulate and manufacture themselves. And so the company at that point, this was about 15 or so years ago, to being primarily a manufacturing business, and our installation business was used as R&D. It was kind of the remnant, not super invested in. Yeah. And it's been fun to be on the journey, I think, with your team over the last year to revitalize our installation business and to modernize it and to make it into a great example of what an install business can be. And we've only just barely scratched the surface.
Absolutely. So you guys are kind of going back to your roots, right?
We are, yeah.
So is it true that you guys have actually installed over 30 million square feet of concrete coating?
It is, and I think that's probably an understatement. I think that number is probably closer to 40 million square feet. It's a lot. Yeah, we did the coating in the United Center in Chicago. We've done lots of hangars around Chicago and more houses than I can count. It just goes back to, there are some houses that we'll get calls from and they say, hey, you installed my floor in 1995, 1996, and we've loved it. We've recommended you to friends. Can you come back and do it again? And so, there's a lot of floors that have Floorguard coatings on it.
That's truly fantastic. So tell me about you. I mean, you said that you recently acquired the company. Mm-hmm. What is your background and what exactly attracted you to the Floorguard brand?
Yeah, it's a good question. My background has nothing to do with coatings, really. I was management consulting, strategy consulting. I was, doing a lot of stuff on a computer, a lot of slide decks, and really had an existential moment of what do I want to do? And my background is I'm a first generation American. My family's in small business. I never really saw myself, I think, being permanently in corporate America. It just didn't appeal. And the path of staying in consulting and telling other businesses how to improve their business without ever having had my own business started to ring pretty hollow. And so This was around the same time that buying a business and search funds and things like that have gotten a whole lot of buzz. And so I listened to a lot of podcasts and thought, hey, maybe, other people are doing it. Other people are buying smaller businesses and growing them. Why not try to do that? So I convinced my wife that why don't we bet our life savings on it? And we started looking around the Chicago area. Floorguard was about right at the very edge of our radius. We were looking at anything that was about 60 minutes outside of downtown Chicago. That's where my wife and I live. And we came across them and I fell in love with the story. I'd had some experience doing concrete consulting and asphalt consulting. Liked the idea of the trades and construction. It felt as real as you can get going away from slides and all the corporate world.
Right.
And the story was cool. American made materials, founder led. You had a lot of customers that said, we just love this brand. We love the product. We love the coatings. We love the installations. And so I love to hear it. And I felt like there was a lot of opportunity to take that and to supercharge it, to bring it all across the U.S.
That sounds amazing. So here's the thing. I think about, concrete coating, and it's kind of still, even though it's been around, it's still an emerging market, right? And so obviously with your background of analyzing businesses and kind of consulting and helping them to grow their businesses and strategy, I'm sure that you did a tremendous amount of research. You seem like the kind of guy that's going to peel back the layers and then peel the layers back on those layers. You seem very meticulous. So where's the concrete coating business headed?
It's a great question. Here's my thesis. It's just Jan's opinion, but we're still very early on in the industry right now. And there's this huge trend right now of people wanting these coatings, not just in their garage, but also in other interior spaces. People are realizing these are beautiful coatings. They're dual purpose. They protect concrete, but they make your room look really nice. And it's the largest space in a room outside of the walls. So right now, the last stat I read was anywhere between 3 to 5% of garages have a coating on them. So almost nobody. But you start to see your neighbors get it. And then when your neighbors get it, you want it. And it keeps going and going and going. So, I think this industry is going to experience a lot of growth. It's in its early days. I think there's a lot of opportunity. What gets me excited about it, just because I wear both hats, we have an install business and we have a manufacturing business, is I think there's going to be a lot of people who end up creating really successful small businesses in this space. And the opportunity to create, family changing wealth in this space is here. And it doesn't require a lot of sophistication. It just requires care and meticulousness. And I think people who do it well and create a good reputation are going to do really well. And it's not, corporatized. There's not a lot of franchises out there right now. So it's a neat space. I think there's a lot of opportunity in it.
I love it. So how long have you had the company?
Right now, it's been just over a year.
Okay. And so obviously, getting in here, it wasn't something you were like, all right, I'm just going to plug in and let's go. Right. So as you engage, what was the first major challenge or turning point that you faced in this new role?
So the first one, just speaking specifically about our installation business, was our phones weren't ringing. It was just, point blank. We just were not getting a lot of inbound leads. When I looked at where our estimates were coming from, it was referrals. So we had been in the business for a while. People knew us. But I acquired the business in September. The first month of me fully being the owner operator was October, going into November. And so that's a little bit of a scary season because when the cold comes, it's a very seasonal business. Right. So here I am, you've got employees to pay and you've got a lot of slots to fill. And my first stress is, hey, we got to get leads. We got to get appointments set. We got to figure that out. And naturally, in today's day and age, where do people find out about you? They find out about you on Google and on your website. Yeah. And our website needed a lot of work. It was not, it was ranking, 50th on Google, if that, somewhere on that. So we were more or less invisible online. Yeah. And so that was the first big challenge.
Absolutely. So, real life, you start this business and you convince your wife to put in your entire life savings, and you get in there and you realize that the phones are not ringing. What did your wife say about that?
She was great. We, very, very supportive. I think the thing that made me very confident is that she has this attitude of a lot of trust and belief that I'll figure things out. And so I think she didn't add to the anxiety. She just kept saying, you'll figure it out. It'll happen. You always do. And so I think that it didn't make me feel great, but it was certainly helpful not to have additional anxiety from that. So I was very happy
I think that's an important point. Obviously, we can have a lot of tongue in cheek about that, but having the right partner as you grow your business, especially in that infantile stage, is extremely important. Right?
Yeah.
You don't want to go into the job and there's this negative impact, and then you go home and there's this negative, and you're just like, I can't win. Right. So what did you do to start to address that situation? I mean, obviously we got into the picture at some point in time, but
Mhm.
before that, I'm sure that you tried to do some advertising on your own, or you brought some other, maybe some internal folks that had done it in the past. What did that look like?
For me, it was trying to figure out what had changed because the business had been larger before, and we had shrunk down, and so I started looking at our P&L. I looked into QuickBooks and started to figure out what was different because the website, that was still the same website we had 4 or 5 years ago, and we had been getting more leads. The thing that jumped out at me was marketing, like marketing costs. Historically, we had been spending significantly more on marketing, and that was a combination of mailers and Google advertising and Facebook advertising, and it had gotten quite low. So in the last couple of years, not a big focus for the company, and so for the most part, we were hardly running any ads. And so the first bit of it was, let's try to run some Facebook ads because my experience isn't in. I don't really know how to run Google ads particularly well, but Facebook ads are a little bit easier to set up, and so my thought was, hey, let's just put a pretty picture up there, put it on Facebook, put some ad dollars next to it, and the leads will come.
Right.
And they did come, except that they were garbage leads. There was a
Right.
lot of tire kickers. And so I knew the problem was we needed to focus on digital advertising. Like that's where the leads were coming. People, when they want anything that's, home remodeling or renovation, your first stop is Google. You go through
Right.
it and you type in epoxy flooring installer near me. So the question is how to get there, how to get in front of the
Yeah.
right eyeballs. So we did that unsuccessfully for, a handful of months to try to run ads on our own. And at that point, I made the decision that we needed to get a partner. We needed somebody who was really good at digital marketing and advertising because we could then focus on the delivery side of it and focus on those issues, but needed somebody who could actually get us in front of the right eyeballs. That's when we brought you guys in.
Yeah, that's huge. So I don't want this to sound like an infomercial, but obviously you decided that, hey, this wasn't something that we could handle in house, at least effectively, right? And, focusing on what you guys know, right? So what did that look like as you brought, say, our team in? What were some of the things that actually mattered to you with a partner and evaluating a partner that helped you to actually start to scale? And we'll start to get into that story as well.
Yeah, it's a good question. So we actually evaluated a couple of partners, and I don't even know if you're fully aware of this. You guys were in a bake-off for a little bit in parallel with another marketing agency, but the big thing was just trust. I wanted incentives to be aligned because it's very easy to set ad dollars on fire. You can spend thousands, tens of thousands of dollars on ads. And, if you don't have a particularly honest marketing agency partner, you'll get reports like click rates and things like that, but that's not what you're paying for. Marketing should have an ROI. So what I was looking for in a marketing partner is setting honest expectations. Like it's not within 3 weeks, you do this and you're going to become, 5 times the size. It's here are the things that it takes. Here's how long it takes to do. And, an attitude around experimentation to say, it's not going to be we set it up and we forget it, but knowing that marketing is as much art as it is science and being able to experiment, iterate both on the design, the copy, the targeting. There's a lot of agencies out there, and the other agency that we had looked at, it was more of, hey, we have this one template. We're going to launch this for you. You're going to put ad dollars next to it, and we're going to guarantee you 25 leads a month. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy to generate leads, but they're not quality leads. And so there's a pretty big difference around that.
Yeah. So, you're talking about kind of a plug and play. So a lot of times when people are focused on, say, a niche, they've developed a template that they think works in a particular area. They replicate that, and then they say, all right, give me $10,000 and I guarantee you're going to get 25 leads, right?
Yep.
One of the things that we try to let you know that we're your partner, right? And our goal is to not only show that we're generating leads, but we're showing you exactly where they're coming from. So can you talk about like that separation where you actually are able to see where the leads are coming from and really look at the engagement and how did that make you feel?
I love data. I think having data around that made me feel more in the pilot seat. because you could actually see what channels were generating leads. So, we use, software, What Converts, that lets us see what leads are coming in through phone calls, whether they're coming in through our Google business profile page, whether they're coming in from Facebook. And it's easy to see then where the quality leads are coming from. And
Yeah.
for us right now, a lot of that's Google. We want to continue experimenting with Facebook and build out that channel. But it was easy to say, hey, not all leads are created equal. Let's focus on these. And Drew, I just wanted to go back to one thing that you said about the guarantees and some of the, I think there's something for owners of installation businesses to be wary of right now, because the industry is it's starting to become interesting and pretty hot. You see a lot of people trying to get into it. But at the same time, you see a lot of gurus popping up. You see a lot of people popping up with these, a lot of them are kind of marketing agencies, really, but they'll say, hey, we'll have a quick start for your installation business, or an
Right.
academy or something like that. And they'll guarantee leads, and they'll give you this, and this. And, we tried a couple of them, and I won't name them, but there's a lot of them out there that they're really just out there to try to cash in on all of the new inexperienced owners who are great installers, but they are not thinking about the business side of it or the marketing side of it. I would be very wary of those, because you have a lot of gurus and a lot of promises, and they're just really out there to try to make money for a couple of months and then churn and burn until you get to the next one. We had burned a couple of times with just the promises, and it was shared leads, and it was misspelled names, and couldn't get a hold of them afterward, couldn't cancel your retainer. A whole lot of stuff out there, unfortunately, with an industry that's this hot and growing so quickly.
Yeah, that's what we call trickery. Lots of trickery and lots of dishonesty out there, and that's what it makes it really tough for us as we're starting to engage with clients, because they have been burned. So you started on this journey. What did the scaling look like? And, obviously when we first got started, I think it was like maybe a couple person team in your admin office. And then there was like maybe one crew that was going out and installing. So, in November, if I remember right, gosh, I think there was maybe about 30 opportunities that came through the door. What did that look like?
More or less, I think it's somewhere in that range. It was 30 to 40 per month, somewhere in that range. Most of them.
And for November, is that normal?
Yeah.
Like, is that right?
No. We're in November now, so I can speak to it. We're getting 5 to 7 opportunities per day now, and that's Monday through Sunday. And a lot of them come in over the weekend. So no, that's not normal. And I would say the other thing is the 30 to 40 is actually kind of a misleading number too, because of that, maybe 5 or 10 were real quality leads. The other ones were spam, form, bot fills. Most of what kept us busy were old relationships, which, don't get me wrong, that's amazing. And when you get that, that's a great foundation. But it's that new business and the lifeblood of a home services business. You need new people calling all the time.
Yeah. So following month, how long did it actually start? How long did it take to actually start getting quality leads flowing through your door realistically? Yeah. So we started in November. When was it that you're like, man, this is actually working?
Yeah, it was subtle, but I would say 3 months. That's sort of the window where things, we started in November, and what we did is first we redid our website. We tried to make it more focused on Chicago. Before, our website tried to make us look like we were in all these different states and kind of be everything to everybody, be great on residential, be great on commercial. And so we focused on being local. Hey, we are from Chicago. We manufacture in Chicago. We are the best concrete coatings installer in Chicago. We've been doing it longer than anybody else. That's what our website says, and it's very focused on that. So we started with that. That took us about through Christmas. So we started, I think, a couple weeks into November, first week of November, and then through Christmas, we got our front door, so our website out. And that was so fun to see because it's beautiful. I think I love our website. We've got a great front door in there. And then in January is when we started to run Google ads. That's when we started to have Google ads go through. And I don't exactly know the numbers, but I would say by February, it was clear that we were starting to fill up our estimate schedule. So we were setting appointments. Those appointments were coming through. By March, we had a record-breaking March. And that was of projects that were installed. And it just kept going and going and going. The team is tired of me saying it at this point, but every month is now a record-breaking month. And so, and I want us to continue doing that because we've only just barely scratched the surface of the opportunities in Chicago.
So right now, as you look at it, we are going into winter. What does your schedule look like?
So going into winter right now, we've got 2 full-time sales reps and we have 5 full-time crews. Right now, we are fully booked through November. and we were booking into the first 2 weeks of December. Now, in terms of estimates, we're fully booked in estimates for the next week or so. And that's about comfortable for us because we find people are pretty impatient that if we have to wait, if they have to wait to get an estimate more than a week, they usually cancel on us. Really, that's pretty unusual for us to go into having all of November and part of December already pre-booked. Again, like I said, we're already on pace for a record-breaking November. And December, you typically, is maybe 50%, 40% of what our high month would be. We're already past that in pre-bookings.
So looking at last year compared to this year, what do you think?
Night and day difference. Night and day difference. I mean, we percentage-wise will probably be up above 150% growth from last year, top line. So
awesome.
More than doubling the business. And a lot of the challenges that come with that are then how do you scale with production? How do you scale your crews and make sure quality remains up? Because quite a lot to throw at a company to say, you used to be running, and we had more crews. We just weren't fully keeping them busy. We had 3 crews before, but they were maybe 25, 30% full. Now it's how do we keep 5 crews doing a lot of work and make sure the quality bar is really high.
Exactly. And so we'll get into that piece. Let me ask you, I'm sure that if you're anything like me, you probably wrote your goals on January 1st as to where you wanted the business to be by the end of the year. When did you cross that threshold?
That's we actually crossed it last month. Our goal, so we did about $1.8 million in revenue in 2024. That's where we crossed 2024. So getting into 2025, looking at that on our installation, my goal was let's hit 2.5. That's going to be a lot of growth. Let's see if we can do that. And we hit 2.5, believe that was last month. So we're on pace now to hit 3. And
nice.
We really started to hit our stride, I would say, somewhere in June. So we saw a big difference in March, lots more leads. But then it took us a little bit to get really good at getting those into estimates and then, doing a lot of other process stuff that we might talk about later to get them to increase our close rate. I think we're on a path right now where $5 million in revenue next year in installations is, that's our goal. That's what we're putting forward. So, and I think we've got a good shot of doing that.
So you started to experience this growth and you're looking at your operation. I remember us talking about, how do you scale, right? And who do you bring in to help you with that scale? So can you talk about what that looked like from last year to this year? How have you been able to scale? How have you been able to maintain that be kind experience where, I can do it. I'm the best in the industry, excellent service, et cetera. Talk to us about that experience.
Yeah. So first is a philosophy that we chose on how are we going to act with our customers and what are we going to do? Because a lot of things are going to break and they are breaking when you scale that fast. And especially if you're a small installation company, you grow. So you're going to make mistakes. And one of the things we said is we're not always going to be perfect, but we're going to do everything humanly possible to make it right for our customers and our employees. So, and that's a big difference. A lot of people unfortunately get in these situations with contractors and they, they're used to getting scammed or they're used to somebody saying, I'm not going to honor my warranty. So we made that choice and that helped us when we got a customer who wasn't super happy with something, a lot of those turned into 5-star reviews because we said, hey, we're so sorry about that. But, we came back the next day. We went above and beyond, did a whole lot of stuff for them. So we made that choice to say, we're going to go through growing pains, but we're going to do it the right way. And we're always going to make it right by our customer, even if that means we're not going to make the most amount of money this year doing that. Like we'll worry about that later. There were different pieces. We kept thinking about it in terms of what's our next limiting factor and worked on that. So initially, it was just get the phones ringing. We need more jobs. We got to keep our crews busy. We got to do that. We got to pack our schedule. Then it became, how do we reduce our number of callbacks? Because once you start to fill the schedule and your team is a lot busier, well, they might be used to doing, one job every couple of days. Well, now we're doing one job per day, wrapping it up, then doing a commercial job, going back into residential. So it's a lot. And your installers then have a tendency to try to rush and to try to get done and keep up. And you don't have enough installers, so you might be running them, Monday through Sunday in some of those instances. And so then inevitably the quality begins to drop a little bit. And so that was our limiting factors. How do we address that? What do we do? And so we did a lot of work around incentives and tried to change that. And then once you solve that limiting factor, then it goes into, how do we set more appointments? Because we had a lot of leads, but leads are expensive. Google leads in particular are expensive. So how do we increase our appointment set rate? And then how do we increase our, our close rate? So then we worked on that and we did a number of things to do that. So that's kind of how we thought about scale. Was it wasn't a grand plan or anything. It was, let's just focus on the next big limiting factor. And then instead of just trying to firefight, let's figure out the process and the team that we need to put in place to do that. I'm a big process guy. How do we make it so that, I can go away, our team can go on vacation and things still run so that we can have a process that, is bigger than any of us individually.
So with that being said, what were some key SOPs that you guys may have implemented with your installers to help you to stop those return visits? SOPs being...
Yep. Yeah. So there are a couple of big things. One is checklists and having photos sent back from every single job site. So the nature of this business is you have a lot of installers who are going to go out, they're going to do their work, and they're going to come back at the end of the day. So it's really a remote workforce, and it's pretty hard to manage that. So initially it was, hey, let's get a clear checklist. And at the end, after all those steps, we get before photos, during photos, and after photos so that we can check in and see if there's anything that looks off. And that was really helpful. But I'll say the biggest thing is we fundamentally changed the way we compensate our installers. Before, the way we compensated them was hourly. That's pretty common.
Yeah.
We moved over into a commission-based structure by the job structure. And what that did was it made it so that before, if you made a mistake as an installer, you would go back and we would still pay you hourly to go do that. Especially in the slow season, January, February, where there's not a lot of jobs, you kind of have an incentive actually to mess up, because then you get sent back, you get to, and it's just human nature. I mean, anybody would do that. So when going over to the commission-based structure, you get we pay, it's basically 19 to 20% of the job goes directly as a commission to the installers. And effectively, if they do their job well, that's a significantly higher hourly rate than what they would have been making before. So they were actually really excited about that change.
Yeah.
But our
They've
callback
got skin
rates
in the game at that point in time.
They do. And they can make, that we introduced some career pathing and other things, but they started coming back earlier. They started coming back happier. They could start to make some real money. And our callback rates, the Google reviews started skyrocketing too, because we incented our installers, $25 gift card for every Google review that you get. I mean, people started naming our installers in the Google reviews. We started getting tons more Google reviews. They started coming back, and there was just a sense of pride and an opportunity now to create a lifestyle, a career for them. And because we have our manufacturing business in other places, we've had installers exit, and now they can go into those. Our installation manager started as a junior installer and then went and started our Houston store on our manufacturing side at some point, came back and now leads our installation division. So I think that also helps to create a little bit of pride in your installation, your crews. And at the end of the day, that's really what you're selling your crew's ability to install floors. And so you got to treat them well, pay them well, keep the good ones around, but also be willing to make changes when you know you need to, because that's the product you're selling.
Yeah, I love that idea of, hey, how do we incentivize this? How do we switch the incentive so that it's not an hourly incentive where I'm going to create opportunities to go back to a residence, but if I get it right the first time, I'm actually going to make money, have ownership in a business. I also have scalability from an installer point of view. Right? I can make more money over time if I do these jobs and take on more opportunities and do them correctly. Life is groovy, right? The sky is the limit. So not only is the sky the limit in the business, but the sky is the limit with also your installers as well.
And I was just going to say, to me right now, where this industry is, what's so exciting about it is the marketing stuff. I talked to a lot of owners of these coatings installers, and some of them struggle with leads and they struggle with getting enough business. But to me, there's a decent playbook on how to do that. If you can even do it yourself, or you work with the right partner, you get a good website out there, you run a good digital marketing playbook, you call them back quickly, you can get the business. I firmly believe that there's more business out there than there are installers.
Right.
The big thing on scaling your business is get good quality installers, train them well, treat them well, have them be proud to work there, because that's what makes or breaks your business, is the reputation and the referrals after that. And that's the hardest part of crew-based businesses, is just making sure that your crews do good business, do good work. People like it. You don't have to go back.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that we, as marketers, I don't know if you were surprised the first time that you got a call and I said, hey, Jan, I listened to the way that this guy answered the call and I have a few suggestions.
Yeah. Well, one, that made me love you guys so much, because that's not an easy conversation to have with a client, to say, hey, I was listening and you guys are dropping the ball on this, and this. But I loved it. And it was. I mean, there's the moment a customer interacts with you at any point in that exchange, it needs to be delightful. It needs to be, you're Johnny on the spot, you've got answers. And so between when they call in and they're just asking some questions and get a lead, responding, quickly and cheerfully and getting them in the schedule, everything up to don't have 15 different recordings. I know you mentioned that when we first started working together, because of the way that we had our phone tree badly set up. It was, you're about to get recorded. Well, you're about to get recorded. And then thank you for calling Floorguard. You're about to get recorded for training purposes. And so you have to listen to that same message 14 times before you
I'm
get
out of
to
here.
a real human. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, from a marketing point of view or a digital marketer's point of view, your success is our success. So for me, I want to make sure that I'm looking at the entire customer journey. And if I recognize that there's opportunities, I'm going to bring it to you so that we can both win at the end of the day. Right.
Yeah.
So that's beautiful. With that being said, let's talk about the back of the house. Right. So we talked about the installers. Obviously, we are growing leads tremendously. And you're like, okay, how do we handle this? So initially, we tried a few different things with AI and technology. Can you speak to that experience that you had?
Yeah. So there's nuanced answers on all of those things because so to back up, we started getting a ton of leads, which was great. But if you don't get back to leads within 5 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes, the chances of you then setting an appointment drop down by half. It really is that important. And so,
yes.
And we started to get, on some of the busy days in the summer, 10 to 15 leads. And it would be before we just had one person. She was our office manager, coordinator, would be in charge of the schedule, in charge of customers who were already on the schedule calling in, and then also be responsible for reaching out to leads when they came in. It was too much. We weren't getting back to them fast enough. And a lot of it would be me after hours between 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. going back through our CRM and saying, oh, who have we not called back? Let me try to call them back. And that worked, but it wasn't scalable because at that point,
you were involved.
It can't just be exactly. And sometimes I only got to them by 8 p.m. and I didn't feel great about calling a customer back at 8 p.m. Like, oh, this is cutting it a little close. So we tried a couple of things. We introduced a AI chatbot. We tried a kind of a third-party call center. And then ultimately we landed on just having our own in-house people to do that. But I'll talk about the AI chatbot. The AI chatbot, AI's gotten really good. It can do really tremendous things. There's a program that we used. Drew, what was it called? The AI chatbot? Closebot, that's right. It's Closebot. Yes. And it was remarkable. I had so much fun with it. So we integrated it in so that when you had a form fill, an automatic text message would go back. And as soon as you started interacting with it, we trained it so that it knew our pricing, it knew our offers, it knew kind of how to respond. And we kind of gave it some instructions around really what you're trying to do, bot, is you're trying to qualify the lead and then ask them for a couple of available dates so that we can then put them into the schedule. And it did that. And actually, I would say 80% of the time, it did it quite well. Yeah. We chatted with it. It felt like a human. You could even ask it, what color of flake would you recommend for my floor? And it would throw out a real color of flake from the pamphlet that we did. And it was very effective. And that was our first help. I mean, it took it so that people felt like they were having conversations, and we would go into the CRM and we had just, 3 or 4 or 5 leads in there that had already, they gave us their address, they gave us their square footage, and then they gave us a couple of times we could put them into the system. And that helped us for 2 or 3 months. And
that's huge because right now you're engaging with the customer right away, right?
Absolutely.
Even though, and it didn't take any human resources.
No, it was inexpensive. It was fractions of a penny for every interaction going back and forth, tokens. And then it was, it took some complexity to set up in the beginning, but after that, it just kind of kept getting better. The only things that we had to, at some point, it was almost too smart. It was a little too creative. We had to give it a couple more guardrails.
Right.
As a couple of funny examples, we're in Chicago, we're in Aurora, Illinois. And so our radius goes up basically to the northern part of Illinois. And it would promise that we would make us, do estimates and commit us to estimate appointments in the northern part of Wisconsin. It would commit us to estimates in Florida. And we would come back and the customer's like, oh, I'm so excited to see you tomorrow in Florida. It's like, no.
You're like, oh.
Nope.
Sorry.
So, yeah. Or we had to train it around pricing at some point too. So before we did that, a customer would start to barter with it. And so it would spit out the normal price. And, it'd be 50 cents a square foot. And then it would come back with, well, could you do it for $2 a square foot? And then the bot would agree and say, yeah, I think we could do it for you. And so we'd come back and we had to come back.
Like, no, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we tried to play it off. Most customers are pretty understanding. They're like, I kind of assumed I was talking to a bot. And so, most of them laughed at it, but it did put us in a bit of a bind a couple of times. It's an inexpensive way to get, from 0 to 80% of the way there. And so it was really valuable. And for a lot of smaller companies, that you should implement that. You should have some sort of automatic recognition that a lead has come in. And that's a great tool. And AI is just getting better and better and better.
So that's truly a golden nugget. I mean, a lot of times, we're dealing with business owners who may not necessarily have a back office, right? Mm-hmm. They are the back office. They're the CEO. They're the call answerer. They're the janitor. They're all of the above, right?
Right.
And so a lot of times when these leads come through, they can't get to the phone, right? Mm-hmm. So the opportunity of having a bot that's trained, that knows not to negotiate pricing probably, right? To at least have that initial contact and maybe set up a follow-up call, that's huge for an installer who's a one-man band, right?
Yep. I couldn't agree more. I mean, it just makes you look much more professional if you respond right away, and you can get a little bit of lead time. You can get an hour grace then to call back that customer. And you see that exchange has gone back and forth. And it was the complexity of some of these interactions was really astonishing. The AI did a great job of asking about cracks and asking about, square footage or when you're planning on doing the project. So it gets a lot of information in it. There's versions of it that we didn't dabble with, but I've seen some other businesses play with about voice bots, and that's sort of the next frontier. I think voice AI bots have gotten so good that you could do text and you could do voice, and that costs you maybe a couple $100 a month, and that's 20 times cheaper than hiring a person until you get to that scale where you really need a person. Like it's pretty amazing how big you can seem to the outside.
Yeah. And, those are some of the tools that we actually bring to the table. Obviously, we help with programming those things so that they have the proper guardrails. But sometimes it does go off on its own. So you have to, make sure that you're reviewing those interactions, et cetera. But it's a great opportunity to at least bridge the gap as you are scaling and growing.
Yep. And I think
go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I think it's a great tool. There's that human interaction that you never want to lose. And I think some companies are going a little bit too far in the direction. And this isn't just codings. This is, bigger companies where, it takes forever to get through the chatbots and all the phone screens and all that. So I think for this type of business, using that smartly, but not over relying on it so that you can still have the human interaction is just the last point that I would make.
So you tried the chatbot, and it did fairly well. It helped to bridge the gap. At what point in time did you decide, all right, we're going to kind of turn this off and bring this internally? How did you go about that hiring process and kind of figure out that next position that you needed to bring in?
It was a revenue level that we reached. So once we were hitting about $250,000 to $300,000 a month in projects sold, you start to have enough room to be able to add more than just, an installation manager, a foreman, somebody who's doing the scheduling. So we got to that point looking at things. I felt confident that we were going to continue to sustain that. And it felt like the limiting factor was just how can we be better and faster at responding to those leads, getting them set into the calendar, and then route optimization, because we have an hour radius where our salespeople will go out and do in-home estimates. And so it's really difficult to automate that. You need somebody who's looking at it, talking to somebody, and trying to move the puzzle pieces to say, okay, well, we know our salesperson's going to be up here in the northern part of Chicago. This one's in the southern part. Maybe we move this around. And so, having somebody dedicated to that, and we could start to afford that kind of around that $250,000 a month range to really dedicate that.
Yeah.
And we went through a couple of different ways of how we would do that, whether it's somebody in-house, in person, in Chicago. That's one model that we evaluated. The other one was offshore recruiting. So there was a series of podcasts that I'd listened to where people were talking about how now with the global world, it's increasingly easier to hire people overseas who are really, really talented. And there's a call out I'll do is there's a company out there called somewhere.com where they'll do recruiting for you, and they'll recruit for specific talent in countries where that country is known for that type of talent. And so for whatever reason, South Africa is a country that's really known for really strong sales skills, really strong customer service skills. That's where they pull a lot of those resources. So we went to them and they did a search for us. And that's where we found our current person who does all of our appointment setting. And she does so well now that we've given her additional responsibility. She's the one that manages our sales pipeline. And calls and tries to negotiate if people are trying to price match. She's helping to, aspirations to even help with some of our designs on our closet and cabinet side. So we've had a lot of luck doing that. We've actually hired a couple people from that agency doing that model. And, while some roles aren't great for that, some people you just need in seat, in person, locally in Chicago. I think for a small local business, don't sleep on it. Don't sleep on the global economy and being able to bring in people virtually.
Absolutely.
You can get some really talented people at a fraction of the cost, but it's, in my opinion, it's not predatory because that money in that country is great money. They're doing it voluntarily. It creates great opportunities. I just think it's something that small businesses, you can do that and you can scale a lot faster because most small businesses don't even think about that. They don't think that I can bring in people from outside of the United States.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. That's another gold nugget from Jan. Good job. Love it. So you brought this person in to help you with navigating the phone calls, maybe booking appointments, having conversations with the client. At that point in time, what impact did it have on your business, do you feel? Were you able to actually secure more opportunities for the business?
Definitely. Yes. Our appointment setting rate at that point went up to roughly about 60%. So we had roughly about a 40% appointment set rate, somewhere in that range, but it's also a much smaller number. At that point, we had really scaled out we basically doubled our daily Google ad spend. And so before, with a lot less, we were doing about 40% appointments. Now, with a lot more leads coming through, we were setting 60% of them to appointments. So
wow,
that was really, really impactful. And that's this person's entire job. She's there, a lead comes in, gets a notification, calls them within 5 minutes. And most of the time, the fact that they get called within 5 minutes, they're surprised because they'll put in form fills on a lot of other home improvement businesses and they may never get a call back, or it might be a couple days later. So that was impact number one. The next part of it is we had a CRM, a sales pipeline created so that we could track once we actually went to the appointment, and we delivered a proposal, we would leave. We didn't have a process in place for calling that customer back, trying to figure out, how do we stack up? Can we try to close the deal? Do we need a price match? We would rely on our salespeople to remember to do that. But you got to remember, we went from having maybe, 2 stops a day to now 5, 6, 7, 8 stops in some busy days. And so you, as a salesperson, you go from this mindset, the scarcity mindset of I'm going to hound my 2 leads, every single day, to now abundance. I have 8 leads. Whatever. I'll get to the next lead. I don't need to worry about trying to close. Exactly.
Yeah.
But as a business, I'm like, no, we paid a lot of money for those leads. That's, those are $150, $200 leads. So we had this person 24 hours after every single proposal was set up, call them, and then start tracking in Monday.com as a CRM that we use, track, where are they in their decision-making process? If they decide to go somewhere else, why did they do that? Can we price match? And so that nudged our close rate up from about 35% to 50% close rate. And so then it just makes it so that the unit economics are, you just want to throw more ad dollars at it because you do that, you set 60% appointments, you close 50% of them.
It becomes a numbers game at that point in time, right?
Exactly. And that's when it's really scalable.
What type of incentive did you offer your salespeople? Because it's, like you said, it's very easy to say, you know what, I'm lead rich, right? I got so many leads and I can, I didn't like his voice. Let me call these guys instead, right? And so was there an incentive that you gave these folks to make sure that they called each and every one back and gave them the right amount of love to get them across the finish line?
Yeah, so salespeople incentives everyone pays their salespeople differently. And, I don't know that we've got the best version of it. What we do is we pay our salespeople 8% commission on jobs that they sell. And that's for a seasoned sales rep. Now, for new salespeople that we bring in, we give them a base salary, and then we give them 5% of the commission on the job until they kind of graduate to that higher level of commission. The way that we've chosen to mitigate the whole, I'm lead rich, and so I'm not going to, necessarily try as hard, is we set an expectation for what good looks like for close rates.
Yeah.
As long we feel good that we're qualifying the leads well. So the leads that we're setting, most of them are quality opportunities. So we say 40% is our mark. If you dip down below a 40% close rate, that starts to create a performance conversation at that point.
Yeah.
And my belief is I'd rather bring in really hungry salespeople who want to going after all the leads, even if they get a lot of leads, they want to go out on Saturdays, they want to go do that. Like I try to avoid people who want a base salary and do all that. Like you want salespeople that are hungry. And
Right.
I'd rather find the right person versus create this really complicated incentive structure to say if your close rate goes down below or this, it's you either are fit or you're not. And, we bring on the right people. That's the path that we've taken. But there's lots of different other paths that I've seen. I've seen people have accelerators where if you have a certain close rate, then your percentage revenue on all of the projects for that month is going to be higher. It might go from 8 to 9% or 10%. You might have decelerators and things like that. I've just always found you want your sales compensation to be so simple that it's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy for salespeople to know how much we're going to get paid and to know what good looks like and what they need to do to keep their job and to grow and to improve. So that's the approach we've taken.
So with that being said, it sounds like you have some sort of system that you are following. Obviously, you have the SOPs that you've put together, standard operating procedures for your sales team. How often do you meet with the sales team? What does that performance review look like? How are you setting expectations for those sales folks?
So we have a weekly sales call, and I have a director of sales who meets with individual sales reps. They talk daily, but they have a pure performance pipeline meeting once a week. And so I don't join those now, but I used to. The way that we have it is we look at our pipeline. It's how many appointments have we set? And then our director of sales will talk about the big deals in that pipeline. We take a look at our close rates, what we need to do to inch that up and just see how are we performing on metrics. So we do that every single week. And then it's the sales director's job to then communicate that down to our other sales reps to talk about, hey, are you performing well? What are we seeing? We constantly make little corrections about what our walkaway price will be. What price are you allowed to discount to? And at that point, you do have to walk away or get a manager's approval. We constantly correct things about, we're seeing a lot of people mismeasure square footage in the field. And so let's make sure that you get the right pictures, the right square footage. And so we use that weekly meeting to make those adjustments. But weekly cadence we found is about the sweet spot.
So we've kind of talked about how you've scaled over time and what that's looked like from a personnel point of view. Are there any SOPs that you would recommend?
I think I'll go back to the installation because it's the lifeblood of the business, because you can bring in the leads, you can sell the leads, but you just won't get very far unless you have really quality installations. And so on the installations, the big thing is getting a standard installation procedure. What do you expect of all of your installers when they're out there in the field? Starts with prep. Prep is really, really important. So you want to make sure that you have clear expectations on how much you're grinding down. Clear expectations on taping up the walls to make sure that flake doesn't end up and damage the the paint on the walls and things like that. To clear expectations around what do you do with your garage aprons and what happens if epoxy spills on the concrete. How do you want your installers to respond to that? What do you do? Because that part of it is where businesses either make money or they lose a ton of money. There's a lot of businesses, and we're no different. We experience our own months where we might have top line sales that look amazing, and then we look and there's nothing left. Like the bottom line's gone because we've had to go back, and because we're so customer friendly, we will always go back on our own dime. We'll always make it right with them, whether that's discounting or fixing things. But you won't be able to scale as an installation owner unless you have really clear SOPs to say, here's the 15-point checklist. And we have a 15-point checklist on what you do. Here's the 5 things you do for prep. Here's how you want to make sure that you're scraping. So you scrape twice so that you don't have any pieces of flake that are poking up, all of that. And then the process for you as the owner or the installation manager to get pictures of that or videos of those process so that you can check in with them as it keeps going. And then having some sort of bonus and structure in place that, installers who do really well and have perfect work, how do you give them a spot bonus at the end, $200, $400 at the end of every month to continue to encourage that kind of behavior so that you at some point don't need to worry about it. It just becomes ingrained. This is how we install. This is what we do. Because there's a lot of companies out there that take a lot of shortcuts. They won't really grind the concrete. They'll use epoxy as the top coat as opposed to polyaspartic. So they'll use cheaper materials, and that ends up you get a very bad reputation if you do that. You can do all this work on marketing and all this beautiful work to get all these leads, and then you flash forward 2 or 3 years later and you have 2 stars on Google and no one trusts
Right.
you, and you've gone out of business.
100%. So that goes back to the human side of the business. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your philosophy on the company culture. I know we've, briefly talked about that, but I also want to understand, not only the company culture, but the leadership, and then how that flows into like your customer service excellence, which is really the backbone of, I think it should be the backbone of any business. What is that impression that you leave with that client that creates that wow experience?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with that part. So the experience that we want for our clients is we are always ahead of where they are. So we'll call them before we get there. We call them a few days before the project to let them know exactly what to expect. We call them if there's an issue, we let them know beforehand. So we just never want there to be surprises for our clients. And at the end, we'll leave them a small little gift. And that gift is a small little cleaning kit. It's a branded cleaning kit. It's got some spray on it, squeegee so they can clean everything. And a couple days later, our installation manager will call them again and say, "Hey, now that everything's cured, how are you enjoying your floor?" Like we want it to feel like that. There's some car dealerships out there where you go in and some people hate buying a car, but there's a couple where you go in and you're like, "Wow, that was amazing." Like I felt like royalty when I was there. We want our customers to feel like they're royalty when they get one of our floors. And so I think the culture that I try to instill from the top down is there's these counteracting forces. Like I really want to work with people that are really friendly, that have a can-do attitude, and I drive the business really hard. We have a high bar for performance. Like we want to grow. We want to be the best concrete coatings installation and manufacturing company on the planet, and we want to do that, which means we have a high bar. And so but at the same time, you don't want that bar to make it so that people are scared to make mistakes, so that people
Right.
are scared to voice it. So, my philosophy is I want everybody to raise their hand. When you feel like you have a question, when you don't know, how to do something, raise your hand. We're going to jump in and make that better as a team and have really high expectations of ourselves and reward people really well for doing that. We pay well above market for all of our roles, installers, our middle managers. We have a lot of really generous bonus programs in place because if we're going to become that best installation manufacturing company on the planet, that means we need the best people. The best people need to be paid the best. They need to be incented. They need to grow. And so all of these things, like little things, start to come into place because, it's a big vision and you want the right people on board. So we're really hard on ourselves. We really want to be perfect, but at the same time, we support ourselves, right?
So
There's
you
a lot
allow
of
yourself
laughter.
to fail forward, right?
Yeah, as long as we learn. Like we try not to make the same mistake twice.
I love it. I working with you guys daily at this point in time. We are working with you daily. Yes, we get a chance to see and experience that firsthand, the culture, the philosophy, and it's very admirable. I guess, can you share with us what is the mission statement that you guys have for Floorguard?
I wish I had a sentence or something like that around what that looks like. It's one of the things that's on our map of doing that. But I would summarize our mission statement of we want to deliver really amazing floors and experiences on our installation side. Like we want people to feel really proud. Like when they open up their garage, we want them to be able to go back and pull in their neighbors and say like, "Wow, look at this amazing space that we've gotten delivered," and be proud to say Floorguard did that I got a Floorguard floor, right? We want it to be the Kleenex of the industry. And
Yes.
same thing for our contractors that buy our epoxy. We want them to be really proud to say, no, I'm not using this other, epoxy. I'm using Floorguard epoxy. Yeah, it's a little bit more expensive, but it's always made here. They stand by it. Like this is going to last. It's going to last you for 40 years. So we just want pride. We want people to be proud of using us and buying product from us and to stand by that quality bar.
I love it. So where do you see Floorguard in the next 5 years?
We have big plans. So we are going to continue to have more locations, our distributor locations across the United States. You'll see a lot more on the the manufacturing side. Every couple of months, we have a new Floorguard location opening up. We just opened up one in East Florida and Pittsburgh, and you'll see many more of those over the next 5 years. You'll see hopefully every major city is going to have one Floorguard location, and then on the installation side, it's interesting. We really don't aspire to have installation companies outside of Chicago because most of our business is really contracting and selling to contractors. But what I want to do is for us to be able to get so good at our own Chicago-based installation business, so good at generating leads and marketing that we can then start to give that as a service to contractors and help them pick 5 or 6 really good close partners in every city and say, we're going to partner with you and we're going to make you really, really successful. We're going to help you incorporate a lot of what we've learned in our install business. Hell, you're going to teach us a bunch of stuff that we should incorporate into ours. And then we're going to supercharge you with marketing. And we do that a lot right now. We're piloting a lot of co-marketing campaigns where we generate leads and we hand them off immediately to contractors because it's all part of the network. You're a Floorguard installer or a Floorguard certified installer. You buy our product. We just want that to be successful, and we want to build up a lot of small businesses in the process of doing that.
So, and I've witnessed you go out and have these conversations with other installers. If I'm a new installer, I'm starting out and really just trying to make a name for myself, get this business off the ground. What 2 cents do you have for me?
Yeah, so one would be just inspiration. There is a big opportunity here, and it's not going to be the easiest path, but I would say if you're really passionate about this industry, do it now. Do it now. It's an amazing opportunity. In 10 years, who knows what the industry will be like? There'll maybe be bigger players, but right now as a small business, you can literally become a millionaire, a multimillionaire. You can create life-changing wealth for your family and for your employees and create something really special here. I'd say one is focus on getting 1 or 2 really good installers that you trust, and then work with a great marketing agency. Work with an agency that you trust to get you a nice website, to get you, some good campaigns that are going. I know you haven't plugged yourself very much, but I will plug Be Kind because you guys have been phenomenal. We've worked with a lot of different agencies, and it's just every time we give you something, you surpass our expectations. And the way that you guys charge, the way that you partner, it's all about creating ROI and creating value. I mean, we've probably quadrupled our spend with you, and frankly, I hope we next our spend with you because it just means that our business has grown 100-fold. But whether it's Be Kind or somebody else, talk to me. We can always connect you with folks. You really need to be really savvy at digital marketing to play well in coatings. It is becoming more of a pay-to-play space. It used to be that you could have a reputation and you get a lot of referrals. I'd say no, if you're starting, get a good website, get that going, get a couple of good installers and move from that. And then I will plug Floorguard. We do a lot and we invest quite a bit of time and money and energy to get new installers up and running. We'll fly you out and have you ride along with our installation team so that you can learn the ropes. We'll connect you with other installers who can talk to you about how to run their businesses. We'll even co-market with you and split ad funding kind of 50-50 in the beginning to get you up and running because that's a future customer for us. We want you to be super successful. So, that was maybe more than 2 cents, but I'd encourage leaning into the network because there's an accelerator here that can get people started. And we just love helping people.
So if I'm a new installer and I'm listening to this and I'm like, man, that sounds super intriguing. How do they get in touch with you? How do they inquire about Floorguard products? And after that, I do want to talk a little bit about Floorguard products. So tell me a little bit about how do I get in touch with you?
Yeah. So, but you just want us to send me an email. My email is easy. It's jan@floorguard.com.
That's not a common name, right?
It is not. an@floorguard.com. And then our lead form. So we, unlike most companies, we really, every single one of our lead forms goes to a real human. If not me, it goes to somebody else. So honestly, you go to floorguard.com, you go to floorguardproducts.com, you fill out a form, you put in there, we want to talk about marketing. You'll get connected to a person that will do that within a day. So go to our website, send me an email. We're there for you.
So talk to me about, we really haven't talked about the products. And from what I understand, the products are really, really special. They have a long warranty. Can you speak to the quality and kind of what's the inspiration? What's the technology? Just give us a little taste.
Yeah, I won't go too deep into some of the chemistries, but basically we offer all of your core chemicals that you need to be a coatings installer. So epoxies, polyaspartics, polyureas, urethane cements. We offer flake. We're a one-stop shop. The difference for us is everything is 100% sourced and made in the United States. It's made in our factory in Aurora, Illinois. We're not, using fillers or anything like that to play games with it. So we are a premium epoxy, a premium polyaspartic. Our claim to fame was we were the first one to have a slow curing polyaspartic. Our Slogo, we'll set it up for free for anybody because we say the moment you use it, you'll never go back. It's amazing. roll it out, and I challenge anybody to get a roller line in Slogo, and I challenge anybody to get a footprint to stay in there. It is an amazing polyaspartic, and we just take a lot of pride and care. I mean, we source high quality, expensive ingredients, and we've done a lot to move our prices down to make them more affordable. We have a lot of bulk buying discounts, and we've moved a lot of our product closer to contractors so that you don't need to pay for shipping. You have a lot of local local distributors that you can buy it from. But that's really it. I mean, we just don't take shortcuts. We manufacture everything in house. We test everything, and our own installation team, I probably shouldn't say this for all of our Chicago customers, but there are guinea pigs. I mean, any new formula or anything like that, we test it with our own installation team, and it will go on 50 houses before it goes to a single other contractor. And
Wonderful.
at that point, then it gets vetted out. So we're not just lab coats. Our tagline is for installers by installers, because we're installers at heart. That's where our company started, and we're designing products that are easy to use, high quality, that our own installers want to use.
Love it. I love it. So that is amazing. And I think that, I talk to a lot of the distributors as well, and they can't say enough about the product itself. And I know it seems like kind of a shameless plug or an infomercial, but I think it's one of those things like if an installer actually wanted to get some product and try it out themselves, what does that look like?
Yeah, they would go on Floorguard Products, our website. You can take a look at all of our product catalog on there. You can see the local distributors that we have and see if there's a location near you. But if you call our 1-800 line, it doesn't go somewhere else. It literally goes to one of our 3 sales directors. And those are people that you can ask them spread rates, mill rates, things like that, and they'll answer you on the fly. Like, they're very technical. So the process is pretty simple. I'd say reach out to a human, because there's a lot of epoxies and polyaspartics that we offer. It's helpful if you talk to us, and we can help give you the closest comparable product to what you're using today, and then get started. We'll send you out some free samples.
And I think we're still just scratching the surface. I mean, you're doing so much in the industry. I love the fact that you're partnering with distributors. I love the passion that everyone that I speak to has about Floorguard, and even when I speak about marketing for Floorguard, I mean, it's one of those unique experiences where, as a marketer or a digital marketer, we have customers that we serve, right? And we bring a certain level of expertise and suggestions on, hey, listen, we're not only going to build this website. The reason a lot of times people are like, oh, you just want to rebuild the website to make money. Yep. It's like, no, we don't want to just rebuild your website to make money. We want to rebuild the website so that we can capture those leads properly and make sure that we get them into the funnel. And from there, a lot of times we have to train our clients on how do you manage the funnel. What is a funnel anyway, right? So top of funnel are people who are just inquiring about the business or the service. And now we've got to take them on that customer journey, right? And so it's been a pleasure to work with you and companies like yours, because you guys understand that, hey, this isn't just because we got the lead doesn't mean that it's going to convert into dollars and cents. We actually have to nurture that lead, right? And so a lot of our customers, sometimes they just get the lead and they're just like, cool, we got the lead, right? It's like, no, we got to do something, flex a little bit, court these folks. Let's date the customer to get them to the action that we want to go. And that's one thing that I can say you guys execute, and the culture around Floorguard really enables you guys to have success with what we are actually delivering to the table. Because if you're getting, 400 leads and you're not doing anything with them, that may only translate into, 15 opportunities. Whereas, you're saying you have like a 60% close ratio or at least appointment ratio, right?
Yep.
So that's huge.
Yeah, I agree. I think and getting a good partner in place where you can work through that and get that set up just gets you those opportunities and the ability to score. I think right now the industry is in this mode where the sophisticated players, and I say sophisticated, you don't need to be that sophisticated, but just you have to get your fundamentals right. Have a Google My Business profile, website that's conversion focused, like you just walked through, that thinks about the customer journey. That's increasingly becoming table stakes. And what you'll see is this huge industry that has, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of floors that need to be installed every year, are increasingly going to go to those people that do that have a website that can answer those leads quickly. And you want to be that company. You want to be there when they happen, because then you want to be one of the first 2 quotes that they get. So I think getting that part right is really, really important. And it's going to weed out a lot of competition, probably raise prices a little bit because you've got a lot of people that are, they're just charging $2 or $3 a square foot because, they don't have a lot of expenses. They're not trying to really, honor a warranty. They won't be around for very much longer. And the other, maybe parting piece of advice I'd have is leaning into a network and learning from your peers. It's a big market. Maybe you don't want to do that in your city. That's totally fine. But whether it's Floorguard or somebody else, reach out to manufacturers and reach out to other installation companies and learn from them, see what they're doing. Because I find people in this industry they're very forthcoming. They're eager to share. I'm really passionate about bridging people together and acting as a connector and a network in this in this space. But there's a lot to learn. I think you increasingly need to do those things because the times of I put an ad in the yellow pages or I just a Google profile and the calls will come. That part is ending. That ship has sailed. That was the last 5-6 years of this industry. We're moving into a different part where lots of opportunities, but you've got to get those fundamentals right.
Absolutely. So we're talking about getting those leads, nurturing those leads, and then also delivering a quality service and creating that wow experience. And I think you've even taken it further by leaving a little gift bag behind, following up to make sure that their experience with your new concrete coating went the way that you wanted it to. That is amazing golden nuggets, creating a network. Let me ask you, you mentioned several times that, I was listening to a podcast. What podcast do you listen to that helps you to get some of these gold nuggets that you're implementing in your business?
There's one that I want to really give a shout out to. It's a podcast called Acquiring Minds. So I really enjoy this whole idea of small businesses and small business entrepreneurship and buying businesses. And what I love about that podcast is every week the host interviews somebody and it's about their journey into buying the business, then operating the business. And frankly, I get a ton of nuggets on, hey, this small business owner who bought this business now is doing this, and this. They share all the horror stories of this didn't work, this didn't work, this didn't work. But then this worked, and this worked, and this worked. And you can pull so much. I pull a bunch of stuff from HVAC. I pull a bunch of stuff from, other trades, businesses and home remodeling and painting that, it happens in this industry. So why not pull it over here? So that's one that I think people should give a listen to. It's a really good podcast, Acquiring Minds.
I love it. That's great. How about a book? Any books that you recommend?
Yeah. So one of the books that I'm really getting into right now is a book called They Ask, You Answer. It's changing my mindset on marketing around just sharing more, producing more content and doing it freely. So the whole book is just around answer questions that people have, that your customers have. So, an FAQ or, if you're an installation business owner, just with your iPhone, film a video of you answering questions that your customers might have, post that on your website or on social media, even if it means you talk about your competitors. That's fine.
Yeah.
Not just in a disparaging way, but answer questions. What makes you different? How, what are they doing? That's something that I want us to do much more of as the years go on. They Ask, You Answer, I think is a great book about just how to produce content that makes you a thought leader. And it's not hard, especially in today's day and age. You can do short little videos and answer questions. And it just makes it a lot easier. You just got to do it.
I love that because, a lot of times getting content from our clients, Jan, is very difficult. And so what's funny is that it's not hard. And I often have this conversation with our clients. It's like, listen, you're out in the field, man. You come across this unique experience. People will devour that. It's not that hard, right? So I love that you recommended that. Where can we find you on social?
I'm not big on social. I think LinkedIn is probably the most active platform that I'm on. So if you want to find me on LinkedIn, send me a message. Otherwise, I'm more behind the scenes. I run the social for our Floorguard products page. So if you see Floorguard products liking anything or resharing, that's usually Jan. But LinkedIn is a good place to reach out to me. Usually pretty responsive there.
And that's fantastic. Jan, this has been an absolute pleasure. What a amazing maiden voyage. You made this extremely easy. You have been so forthcoming in sharing your knowledge. And, I would love to actually welcome you back because I think that there's still so much more to uncover. But I want to say thank you so much. This has been absolutely incredible.
Thank you so much, sir. This was a lot of fun. I really appreciate it.
All right. Jan, until next time.
Thanks. Take care.
On that climb.